Hello Wargamers and welcome to another Wargame Red Dragon video with me Bubblebox, and today we are continuing with the build and battle series, and we're going to be using in the next video, the next gameplay video, we're going to be using this deck, the NORAD Armoured deck. This one donated by Uncle Sam, and the first thing I can ask you, or I can tell you're asking, is why have a NORAD Armoured deck rather than a USA Armoured deck when you can get an extra 5 action points and an extra 10% availability? And I'm guessing the answer is because we wanted the ADATs in this deck from the Canadians and a little bit of extra recon, but we'll have a look at that when we have a look at the deck. Remember, this isn't a review, this is just to check out what's in this deck before we put the gameplay up for this deck. So let's have a look at what's in the logistics first of all. 2 fobs, and that's really so that we can resupply or repair the hit points on our tanks when they take damage. And this deck, by the way, is designed for long and open games. Then he's got the Hemps to distribute all of that logistics. The Hemps, one of the best blue for logistics trucks in the game, and the great Chinooks as well, the good old favourites, the Chinooks. 4 of those to distribute the logistics for this deck. And the bit for the commands, we've got just the Jeep, just a little Jeep. That's all that's really needed in this type of deck. Moving forward though, to have a look at the infantry, and all we've got in the infantry, as I might expect for this type of deck and what this type of deck is going to be used for, is just one set of line infantry, the Rifleman 90s. But the most important thing for this deck is that they've been brought in M2 A2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles. The TOW2 missile, only 4 of them, but all they're going to have to be doing is sitting in a tree line and protecting our tanks from those pesky HEGM wielding Red 4 tanks. We've also got a few lad stingers also in the Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. A nice man pad with an HE power of 5, which is all important of course, so that it can 2-hit the Red 4 choppers, the armoured Red 4 choppers, and yeah, a really nice man pad to put into this deck. Support wise, this support is really important with an armoured deck, because you're going to be having the enemy try to take down your tanks with ATGM wielding planes and with the expected Akulas and other helicopters that are going to be trying to take your tanks down. So what have we got to protect ourselves against all those choppers? Well, we've got the fantastic M4A3 Chaparral with its 12 infrared missiles, 3,300 meter range. Won't need refilling because it has got 12 missiles, so a really nice unit. There is a slightly downgraded one, this one, the M4, the standard Chaparral, which could be brought in as well. You get more of them, but he's gone for 2 sets of the M4A3, which is fine. Then we've got the ADATs, the one of 2 Canadian units in this deck, and this is probably why he's chosen the NORAD deck rather than the American deck, so he can get these. These are probably one of the best Canadian units in the game, with a helicopter range of 3,325, but of course these are multi-role. They can shoot at ground targets very effectively, very effectively, in fact, with an accuracy of 70% and a range of 2,800 meters. And they can also shoot at, or probably not their main role, but they can shoot at aircraft that fly over as well. And then for the aircraft, we've got the Hawk Pip 3s. Yeah, just a really nice radar guided anti-air missile. It does run out of ammo quite quickly. It's only got 3, so you probably want to take a Hempt along with you if you can. Bit weak on the artillery in this deck, but you can't have everything. He's got some M109s, probably for counter artillery, counter battery fire, and for sniping any ATGMs that he might spot with his recon, or that he might spot firing against his tanks. No mortars, which might have been useful in this deck, but we haven't got any in this one. Tank wise, well, of course, as you might expect, the tanks are full. We start off with the big super heavy, the M1A2 Abrams, 180 points, only 2 of them though, which is a bit of a shame. but they are very well armoured, you know, fantastic Blue 4 tank. And then the one downgrade from that is the M1A HC Abrams for 155 points. We've got 3 of those guys. And of course, as you go down the M1A1 range, you just get a downgrade in the armour and a slight downgrade in the gun each time. As we go down to the M1HAs, 140 points for those guys. All these tanks look fantastic, and then you get a multitude of M1A1 standard M1A1s. In fact, you get 12 of those guys. And then at the medium tank end of things, we've got a couple of tanks down here which are quite interesting. We'll have a look at the M1 Abrams, the most basic type, first of all. And all of his units, by the way, are not vetted up. He's got them all in so just the standard type of tank that comes as they come, because he's going for numbers rather than getting them vetted up. We've got the M1 Abrams, and for a medium tank this has got a pretty good armour, should I say, but a pretty poor gun. The gun isn't up to much with this tank, especially against any Red 4 tanks that it comes across, mainly because it can't hit very hard at just 13 AP, and its range is a little bit short as well. But it has got decent armour. But if we compare that to the other medium tank we've got in this deck, the M4 AGS, this has actually got a really nice gun for a 55 point tank, but has got really poor armour. So a bit of a contrast there between those two medium tanks, and certainly they will have different roles in the game if you manage to micro them to have those roles. Reconnaissance is going to be really important, of course, for your armoured deck, so that your tanks can see what they're shooting at, and what, more importantly, possibly what's shooting at them. We've got some Rangers first of all, a nice infantry unit in their own right. Bought them in the Chinooks. Yeah, could have bought the Cavalry Scouts in instead, I guess. They've got a little ATGM launcher, the Dragon, although it's not the best thing in the world, but you would have got more recon. You would have got 8 instead of how many? 6, which I might have gone for. But we've got the Rangers in this deck to use. We've also got 4 Bradleys. These are a nice but expensive recon unit. 12 missiles as well. So yeah, they've got a lot of missiles, but the question is, once they're spotted, if they can get all those 12 missiles off before they actually get targeted and die, because they are an expensive unit. They've got a little bit of armour with 5 front though. We've got some OH Kiowas, one of the old favourites, with the minigun one, not the ATGM one. You cannot get the ATGM one in this deck, I don't think, anyway. Yeah, so we've got the minigun Kiowa for spotting, long range spotting with very good optics. And then we've got the second and the last, in fact, Canadian unit in this deck, the little truck, the little armoured car that's been converted into a recon truck, 10 points. Basically, I expect these are in to get something really cheap to scatter and spot for the tanks in the deck. Moving on to the vehicles, we've got some Convats. Again, these have AP power as well, 5 AP power, and can shoot infantry, and will be really quite nice through trees for taking out any armoured vehicles in trees, or even tanks in tree lines as well. 3 front armour as well. And then helicopters, we've only got one. It's the best one really that you can get in this deck. It's the AH-1F attack chopper. It's got some ITOs and some Hydras, kind of a bit of a multi-role that you can use in and around the map when you need it against infantry, light vehicles, or even tanks if you can get some decent shots onto their tanks. It's got an okay range at 2,600 for those ITOs as well, although, yeah, pretty decent. Then finally we've got the aircraft. Now the aircraft is something I might have a little bit of issue with in this deck when I'm using it. It's got 2, 4, 6, 8 air superiority fighters. I guessed these are to keep the attack aircraft away from his tanks, and to keep his tanks from getting spotted from a distance. That's a lot of attack aircraft. Personally, that's a lot of superiority aircraft. Personally, I would have gone for maybe some attack aircraft, perhaps a Nighthawk, maybe for me, the Hornet, with its ATGM. Possibly you could have gone for the Thunderbolts as well if you prefer the Thunderbolts over the Hornet, or maybe even another bomber as well. But we'll stick with what he's got in the deck. So that's it. That is Uncle Sam's NORAD Armoured deck that we're going to be using for the gameplay as part of this build and battle series. So please do comment below on what you think about this armoured deck and anything else you think should be in or out of this deck, with perhaps a little reason why. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching and look forward to seeing you in the gameplay, which I will be uploading tomorrow. See you next time.